Hey everybody, and welcome to another and our last Game of Thrones special for Geek Freaks.
Whoop whoop.
I am Frank, and I'm with Jonathan.
Hey y'all.
And with...
Joshua.
Oh, come on, you're supposed to do something special.
Nuha Ritsas, Nuha Brozi Joshua Isa, which is, my name is Joshua and High Valyrian.
Oh, man.
This kid's getting fancy on us.
Oh, gosh, we're spoiled. I'm sorry.
I know. Real quick, Susan, who has been with us for most of our episodes, for the Game of Thrones episodes, is not with us today because work. But I do want to make sure to say a special thanks to Susan, who's been here for a lot of them.
Quit that job.
And we really, well, as soon as the podcast somehow pays us, I'm still figuring that part out. But anyways, I really appreciate her coming in, and having her point of view has been a lot of fun. So thank you very much, Susan, and appreciate it. Okay, let's go ahead and start off with overall, Jonathan, what'd you think of this episode?
Overall, I was satisfied in the ending of such a amazing story. It was a satisfying end, but it was still at the end not as thrilling and exciting as I was hoping and expecting it could be. But it was in the end satisfying for a conclusion to the story.
Yeah.
Okay,
Joshua, what do you think overall of this episode? Like in 20 seconds.
I thought it was good. You can tell an ending is good when you feel like the story's been completed, but you still want to know more about the characters. If you say, I'm done with the characters, then maybe it wasn't a very good story to begin with. And so the fact that you've fallen in love with these people, and even you want to see where they go next. You want to go see where Arya goes. You want to see how Sansa's doing as Warden of the North is a good sign. That means that you have fallen in love with these people and you want to see them forever.
I haven't heard that point of view yet, and yet I really like it. Yep. It's really good. Because they do have good... the arcs are done. This is the completion of the story. But I want to know, like, Jon up there as, Lord Commander / maybe a wildling now?
Yeah, totally.
We'll talk about that. We'll discuss that. But you want to see these tales. I would love to see... I would really like to see graphic novels spawn out of this.
Yeah.
We already have some, but I want to see, like, the tales of Jon and Ghost. Oh, man.
They closed a lot of, or pretty much all, for the most part, loose ends, which was great and successful. Could have been done a little bit differently, but it was still successful. Yeah. But they still left you with great characters who are going off to continue their journey. And like you're saying, you kind of wish you could see what they're going to do next.
And they're generally all fitting to what the character wants.
Yeah. Because
that's one thing. It may not be what we want. It's what the character wants, which I think is important.
Yeah.
Except for one. She did not get what she wants. Okay, so let's go ahead and dig into the episode before we start getting into too many spoilers. Yeah. We're recording this on Tuesday, so if you haven't seen the episode, get in on this. Why are you not watching this show? Oh, I do want to give a shout out to your friend whose only experience of Game of Thrones is listening to our podcast.
Seriously. Jake Johnson, a.k.a. Jake from State Farm, has been watching... or listening pretty much religiously, but doesn't know anything Game of Thrones except for our show. So I hope you stop listening now. Don't get all the spoilers. Start from season 1. Enjoy the hell out of all of Game of Thrones, and then listen in again.
Yeah, Jake. Look, I have a great speaking voice. I'm not denying that. But you gotta watch these actors and everything like that. The story, George R. R. Martin wrote the story. We are definitely not the best place to experience the story. So check out Game of Thrones. But thank you very much for listening, Jake. If you got any suggestions for other shows you want us to review, let us know. Let Jonathan know, bug him at work.
Heck yes.
Okay, so let's get into it. First off, we have the intro. A little bit changed. I really like the changes to it. We saw some changes to King's Landing. What'd you think of that, Joshua?
So I liked the fact of it, behind the throne there used to be a lion, and now it's completely empty.
Yeah.
And below there used to be they used to have a shot of the dragon from the scorpion, and now that's done because they've all been burned up in the last episode. So I thought that was really cool. Like normally they just do it season by season, I think. So like for example, there was like a few where there was Bravos mentioned. There's like no Bravos in the episode. So I love this is like their finale. So of course they've got to put all the attention to all the little details in this one.
Yeah, I do like. Yeah, normally if the episode's gonna have Bravos, they'll use their standard Bravos shot. But this season, every episode has actually been changing depending on what's happened in that exact episode. So this one we saw, King's Landing in ruins because Daenerys went on everything and just wrecked the place. So she's Mad Queen Daenerys, and we'll always love her. Oh god. Okay, so we see Tyrion, Jon, Davos, and Arya walking through the city. And they find Grey Worm, who's executing the Lannister soldiers. Tensions begin to rise. Now, I have a question for you guys. We'll start with Jonathan on this one.
Oh, yeah.
Was Grey Worm in the right to start executing these Lannister soldiers?
No. it depends on whose authority he's doing it under. Of course, he's doing it under Daenerys. So for him, he's in the right because she's in the mindset of kill all Lannisters, no matter what their what do you call it, whether or not they're still hostile or not.
He feels like they're free men. They made the choice to follow the Lannisters.
Yeah, but these are free men who've been captured, and now they are your prisoners. Right. So prisoners of war, you keep them until you can negotiate their surrender, their whatever.
Yeah,
but there's not really room for that in this world they're in now.
That's my argument on that. Is because, especially when you think of the Unsullied and they're coming from Essos where things are a little bit more dire, the value of human life is definitely different than it is in Westeros. Mm-hmm. I think that we see that. And so when he's executing people that are just a threat, everything they've seen so far is if you leave people alive, like the Sons of Harpies or something like that, if you leave these people alive, if you show them any compassion, they'll be a thorn in your side forever. You have to get rid of them.
Yeah, and it's sad, but it's kind of, to me, it's just a little, now looking back, it's a little bit of foreshadowing to that we can't have a happy solution with Daenerys now. We can't have her retiring as a queen to another island, or, she can live side by side with Jon. No, she's a threat. Just like those Lannisters are, and she has to be put out completely.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Are you an English major?
It's like reverse forward foreshadowing. I don't know how you say that.
No, you messed it up at the end, but you were sounding pretty smart there.
Was I? Okay, cool.
What did you think? Did you think that was a good idea, Joshua?
Well, it's hard to say because like he's been a slave all his life, so like until like a few years ago, like he had no choice. He basically had no free will. And so I think he's still figuring that out. He has a much harsher sense of justice because he's lived in a life where he's basically like all the morality was basically like kicked out of him as a child.
So do you think there may be even a little bit of jealousy in the fact that these men were free and that they chose the wrong side? Because he didn't have the freedom for a long time. So he, even now that he is technically a free man, he still owes so much to Daenerys. That seeing these men who've chosen someone who, I mean, the stories have been through her ranks, of course, of how terrible Cersei is.
Yeah.
Seeing these men who have been free this whole time to make that choice, could there be a little bit of anger in that?
I don't think it's anger necessarily that they chose the wrong side. I think it's anger because he kind of sees in them the masters. Because these are knights. So they have money. They have servants. They've been ordering other people around their whole lives. Yeah. They know nothing about the experience of slavery or poverty. And so I see that class element there. Okay. The fact that he kind of sees them as part of the oppressors. And so, of course, when you're breaking the wheel, he sees that you have to basically kill all the masters.
Yeah, you have to shatter the spokes too.
And honestly, I think he's just in bloodlust right now. My Sandé's dead. He has absolutely no purpose in life except for to not just kill, but kill everybody that Daenerys wants him to kill or will allow him to kill.
I think he's reverted back to his unsullied, less humanity roots. Yeah. We see at the end, though, there is a glimmer of hope for him. Yeah. So I really do like that. Yeah. All right, next up, we see Tyrion. He starts looking for his siblings. And through this moment, though, what I really like is we kind of get a tour of the Red Keep again. Mm-hmm. And especially through Tyrion's eyes back in season 2 and 3 and stuff like that, when Tyrion was handed the king and when he was recuperating there from after the battle. We had a lot of these familiar shots that we've had before where this is the table he sat and he talked to Cersei. This is, the great map room, which I like, by the way. There's a crack in the map room that is right between the north and the rest of the kingdoms, which is foreshadowing to the future. We also saw that in the intro too, so it's in there both shots. But anyways, and then we finally see Tyrion make his way down to the crypts, not the crypts. Anyways, the escape tunnels.
What's that
not
called?
so escape tunnels. I mean,
yeah, we talked about it last episode.
I don't know. There's a catacombs. That's the word.
Catacombs.
I meant. Yeah.
There you go.
And he sees Jaime's golden hand, which is the telltale sign, Jaime no mo.
Buried in rubble.
Yeah. And he digs them out and he sees them, but they're both in their arms. I do like that.
Yeah.
They did die in their arms, like that's something we saw.
It's nice that he was able to see that too. I think that was a little bit of closure for him.
It was a little bit of closure. He cried. I think he cried literally over both of them. Yeah. Even his sister. Yeah. Because he pleaded with her when she was on the wall, like, man, you got to do this, not for just you, but for your kid. Yeah. So there's 3 basically dead Lannisters there. And it's like... He lost the emotions from Peter Dinklage in that role. Mm-hmm. Oh man, you're just feeling it for him, Rains of Castamere comes into that beautiful sound.
I liked it. He's a great actor. It was a good scene, but I'm disappointed I didn't see a tear. He was trying. He was trying to muster up a cry, but I didn't quite see any tears.
I thought he cried.
He emoted crying. He acted crying.
You know what? Good enough. Nice job, Peter Dinklage.
Yeah. Just to bring in a dropper.
What'd you think? Did you have any emotions for that, seeing Jaime and Cersei there in the rubble?
Yes, but I think there's a sense of regret there. Because if he hadn't let Jaime go free, Jaime would still be alive.
Oh, that's a good point. You think he's feeling guilt?
A little bit, yes, because a lot of this is kind of like his fault because he's helping the woman that basically killed them.
I think there's also some regret there because his job this whole time has been to quail Cersei. Sorry, not Cersei, Daenerys, and he hasn't been able to do it. And Varys has been warning him. And there's been a few mentions of Varys throughout this episode, which I think is constantly haunting Tyrion. Yeah. And I think that is also guilt there, is the fact I just could not bring her back. I couldn't save Daenerys, and let alone my brother and sister. So I think there's a little bit of that too. We see Jon approach the Red Keep. He's walking amongst her soldiers. I love the scene of how they're divided up. We have the Unsullied in front, the Dothraki in back. Everybody's hyped. Well, the Dothraki are hyped. The Unsullied are standing nice and neat. They're doing their thing. And then we see Daenerys fly into the Red Keep on Drogon. And what might be the best shot of this entire series is Daenerys walking out into the archway of the rubbled Red Keep. The wings flail on Drogon, showing up right behind Daenerys. Yeah, I'm trying so hard to make this a wallpaper, but I can't find a high enough res picture of it. And it was just, and then Drogon takes flight, and it was just wonderful. What is the meaning behind that?
It's just the Dragon Queen is what it is. It's her. It shows.
I got one term I'm excited to say. So.
Say it.
No. What did you think it means?
It's kind of like her presence. So she's kind of like almost fused in that dragon personality. So in a way, like she has like in the beginning, she had like this human, like merciful side, and she got to try and call herself like a mother. But now she's like completely gone into that dragon side, that fierce, destructive side of her personality. Yeah.
What did Viserys always say? Don't wake the dragon.
Yeah.
The dragon is woken. This is full Targaryen. This is what Viserys warned about. Like, don't wake the dragon in me. The dragon is woken. This is what we see when the dragon wakes up in a Targaryen.
I forgot about that, actually. Yeah. He threatened that all the time. Don't wake the dragon in me.
Yeah.
That is pretty cool.
And now we finally see a dragon is woken, and that's the image of it right there. I need that wallpaper. I can't find a high enough definition and picture of it.
Man. Yeah, that is an amazing scene, though.
Yeah. The cinematography of this episode, like I said, I think both times I was watching it, both of you guys, I think it was above par. There's another scene later on. We don't really talk about it too much, but Jon's walking through, and we see Drogon wake up in the snow.
Yeah.
It was just... there was no real reason for it. It was just awesome.
I gotta say, there's few movies that I can compare the cinematography quality of shots compared to at least the series or the season of Game of Thrones. It's just amazing.
A lot of the shots did remind me of Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. Yeah. So I am getting the big itch to watch all those again.
Down with them all. I really liked in that scene too, just before Daenerys lands, when Jon's walking through all the soldiers, you see Arya is kind of stalking him too, like keeping pace with him, just trying to see where is he going, how is he going to approach her. If he lunges at her, if he jumps on her, if he tries to make a fucking side maneuver, or whatever he does, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be ready to jump in and defend my brother and take this woman down as soon as we have a chance. So that was kind of, I feel like she was just the panther behind him, ready to jump in as soon as he makes that attack.
Panther right there.
Right? Or, wolf. Hoping that he makes that attack, but she wasn't quite sure what move he was going to do, I guess.
Yeah. It was a wonderful scene they're setting up. We also see at the same time Tyrion starting to walk up from behind. Yeah. We have Dany there. She's addressing her troops.
Yep.
We have Jon and Tyrion standing behind her, both full regrets on their face. And Dany's telling her troops, in both... Me and Joshua were talking about this. In Dothraki to one, Valerian in the other, right?
So she was speaking both languages.
Yes.
I was sitting there like, but she has, because it's hard for me to tell sometimes. But she does have the harsh language when she's talking to the Dothraki.
Yeah.
Which is very, that's Dothraki. It's that like Klingon almost language. Yeah. And then she was changing it to that very sing-songy High Valerian, which is much like Elvish and Lord of the Rings type language. To the Unsullied.
That's so cool. And just the translation, it was such a powerful speech she was giving. It was an awesome scene all around.
What did you think of that speech?
I liked it. It kind of like highlights why she needs to be taken out, because like she's spreading the revolution everywhere.
Yeah, you almost want to follow her,
right?
And I do love the way they shot it, because like one speaker on top of a stage surrounded by a homogenous mass of soldiers is like so ingrained in our culture with like dictator or like fascist imagery.
Yeah, drawn back to World War II,
or the Empire and Star Wars. Same thing.
Mind blown.
My Wake the Dragon thing was the mind-blowing part of this segment.
Yes. Sorry. Make it look good.
You're all right. Okay, so we have basically a speech from Dany saying that she wants to take over the world now, and the whole premise of it is that she's going to free everybody, but it'll be under her rule, Yeah. And then we had Tyrion, who finally has woken up. Yeah. He's shaking it from his eyes. He goes up to her, and he takes off his hand to the queen pin, and throws it down the steps. Yep. And right away, you're like, dude, you're dead, but props. You're going out like a boss.
Before he threw it, though, did you not think there's a slight chance that he might just try to stab her in the heart? It's not, it might not kill her, but it's his only chance to possibly get her while he's there.
Yeah, that would have been cool. Yeah. I just think that, it would have been ill timing.
Yeah.
I just that throwing it down, I think at that moment he's thinking about himself. Like, I need a safe face. He knows that it's not going to land on her.
Yeah.
She's right now, she's not the same. She's kind of not the same person anymore.
No.
It's landing on her and it's ricocheting to Jon. Because when he walks back out after he's been captured by the Unsullied, he makes sure to give Jon a look. Yeah. Like, look what I just did. What are you going to do?
Yeah, we need you. The rebellion needs you now.
Yeah. All right, so let's go ahead and fast forward a little bit here. Then we get to the moment where Jon's, real quick before we go too far. Oh, yeah. Speaking of Panther Arya, she just like shows up next to him up on the top there.
Yeah.
You need to kill her. Where'd you go from?
Yeah.
Nobody in Westeros understands how awesome Arya is.
Right.
She is straight up faceless, guys. She hasn't changed faces since the phrase.
She needs her own series.
Pirate Arya.
It could be before though. But yeah, even after, I would totally support a series. Netflix or HBO or Netflix.
HBO, trust me, they want Game of Thrones stuff.
Give her any number she asks for. I don't care. 10 million, 132 million, 6.3 billion, whatever she says, just pick the number.
Billion's rough.
We'll make it work. We'll just, Photoshop the B.
Yeah.
But whatever, make it happen.
I like that she's going to a bank and it's clearly a Photoshop B. Trust me, it's like with crayons. Trust me on this one. All right, so let's get to Tyrion is in prison now, and Jon visits him, gets some advice. What did you think about this conversation between these two men that have fallen in love with Dany from one way or another, and now are stuck with the situation? What do you think of that conversation?
One of my favorite scenes in the whole series.
Okay, good.
Because it touches on every theme the series is about. It talks about destiny, talks about family, repeats that verse, love is the death of honor.
Yeah.
And so it touches on all the themes that the series is about. And I love, right before Tyrion goes to prison, she says, you committed treason, you freed your brother. And that's Daenerys' weak point, is because she's lived her whole life without a family. Yeah. And so she doesn't understand, why aren't you making your sisters bow to me? Why would you free your brother? So she has a complete blind spot there into the power of loyalty to one's family.
And that's one thing that's echoed throughout all the Targaryens, is the fact that it's like, we'll mess with each other, but you can't mess with us. Mm-hmm. It's a real Arrested Development kind of thing. The Targaryens have always had, not always, but there's oftentimes Targaryens have had infighting. Even the most honorable Targaryen that everybody knows about is Rhaegar Targaryen. He literally was trying to overtake his father, Mad King Aerys, at the time of the whole Robert Rebellion kicking off. So it's never not been a case. So the idea that she doesn't understand the loyalty to family like that makes sense. She doesn't understand that Jon just simply has to tell Arya and Sansa the truth. Mm-hmm. And, Brandon knows because he's crazy. But yeah, so that makes sense. The love is the death of duty is from Maester Aemon, something we saw from season 1. One of the last Targaryens we'll see. Yeah. So that was pretty cool. One thing that Tyrion says on his way out is, let's see, let's cut that off. Okay. One thing that Tyrion says on the way out is, you have the decision. None of us do. Something along those lines. Do you guys remember that exact line?
I don't remember exactly how it was worded.
No. Okay, so it was something that's important, because basically he's saying, you're the only one of us that can get close to Daenerys at this point.
Yeah.
Tyrion gave you the message. He threw down the badge saying, you have to do this. This is the new honor. Mm-hmm. And we saw a little bit of Ned Stark still in freaking Jon. It's amazing how from season 1 to now, Ned Stark's perception has changed so much. In season 1, we were heartbroken. We could not believe Ned Stark died.
He was such an honorable, noble man. We realized honor and nobility is ignorance and stupidity.
Yeah.
Right?
In season 8, we're looking back at Ned and we're like, what a foolish idiot. You got yourself killed.
Right? You had the power at that time. You could have beheaded or just attacked whoever you needed to.
Or taken the damn Iron Throne.
Yeah. You had the authority and power to do it. You had the people backing you, but you were too honorable to do what you needed to do at the time.
It's amazing. Every time you see one of his kids take on that role, you're like, no, don't do that. Don't be foolish.
Right.
Look at Littlefinger. He's the one you should be modeling after.
Gosh, that's sad.
So we see Dany. She's in the throne room, and this is something we had seen in the House of the Undying. And she's walking up. It's been destroyed. There's snowfall. It's not quite as much as they had changed it a little bit from the original House of the Undying vision.
Yeah.
They broke down some of more of the walls because they wanted to bring more light in production. But nevertheless, same thing. She gets up to the throne and she actually touches it. Now, Emily Clark, the actress that plays Daenerys Targaryen, says that's actually the last shot she ever filmed for the show. So think of how emotional that is. They do things out of order.
Yeah.
But think of how emotional that touch is then, because that's literally the last time she is a Game of Thrones member.
Yeah, that's hard.
It's tough, yeah.
I mean, it's such a powerful character too. You are the story more or less. Of
Ice
Game
and
of
Fire.
Thrones.
You're one of those two.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah,
and that's the last chance. That's your final. That's your retiring touch right there.
So yeah, if you think of what's going through her mind when she touches that, she touches it. They get a few seconds. Cut. All right, thank you very much, Emily Clark. Here's some donuts for your going away party.
That's her goodbye right there.
Yeah. So it really kind of, I like when you know about when their goodbye is.
Yeah.
It shows the emotion in that moment. So that was her goodbye.
God.
Yeah. And then so that's something we saw in the prophecy. In the prophecy, right before she touches it, she turns to see. She goes through like her version of the wall.
So in the prophecy, she doesn't touch it though, right?
Yeah, which kind of was like, I wish she hadn't touched it. I wish she had turned up beforehand. Would have been a very small change, and would have been a lot more for the prophecy.
Yeah.
But I think at this point, the show's less dependent on that kind of thing.
True.
In
the show, they don't actually mention or clearly mention the prophecies.
Oh no, they actually showed it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they had to reshoot basically what was in the prophecy. Her walking through the throne room was in the prophecy. We've actually seen that before, but they changed the set because they needed to get more lighting in there.
I see.
Yeah. So, anyways, then Jon is there, and they start to have their heart-to-heart. What did you guys think of that discussion between Jon and Daenerys? Joshua?
Well, it's kind of like, I think it kind of goes back to that family thing. I think what clinched it for him was the fact that he would have to betray his family to love her. And so, like, with that, we're talking about that final scene with those two, right?
Well, just their discussion, because one thing I really noticed about that scene is they made sure to bring old Daenerys back in. Right before we get to see the end of Daenerys, they bring in old Dany to kind of like, hey, everything's going to be good. We're going to be okay, And it's almost in a lighthearted attitude.
Yeah.
She's talking about doing things that are evil. Like, not necessarily
excited.
evil. She thinks it's good. She really thinks she's going to break the wheel. So she's going to take over and get rid of slavers and all these terrible people by burning down the infrastructure that was put in place.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like she's happy about the situation, but we're watching the destruction around her. And Jon is telling her, like, you know what Grey Room's doing right now? Do you know what happened to the city around you?
And when she tries to talk to him, she's all excited and happy and lighthearted, like you're saying. And the first words that come out of his mouth aren't like, oh, I'm so glad you're okay, or we just went through this chaos.
Yeah.
It's, do you know what Grey Worm's doing? I just saw him beheading or slaughtering, soldiers or prisoners of war.
Yeah.
And he just cuts to the chase, goes straight to the dark and hard, like, hey, we need to talk about this. This stuff's going on. Let's try to stop it right now. And she's in this peaceful, kind of happy, excited, future-looking, moment. And they're just totally on different pages.
So why do you think they did the dialogue like that? That they showed her bubbly and happy like this?
I think it kind of wanted us to reconnect with who she was, but...
A little bit, yeah. I think a little bit of that.
We're still on who she is now.
I think that's the key. I think the reason they did this is to show she's always had this in her mind.
Yeah.
That this was the destiny. This was what her plan was. She's not, I'm bubbly now because I'm switching back off and on.
Yeah.
It's like, everything's going as planned. Now we're going to go ahead and take over the rest of the world. And we're just viewing it differently now. We're like, it's not slave masters. It's it's kings and queens or lords and ladies of Westeros now.
Yeah.
And it's like, ooh, wait, what's going on?
So I feel like we were trying to kill Hulk, and we waited till he switched to Bruce Banner and forgot that he was Hulk, and then we were able to stab him in the heart. Like, we waited until the fire...
I'm a little confused by that. I'm not gonna lie.
No, I mean, like, we waited till the fire was out, and she wasn't this furious dragon anymore, but she was the innocent girl that we fell in love with.
Yeah.
And only then did we decide to go ahead and kill her. Only when the Hulk side was gone and she was the innocent living person that, she died. I would rather see her die when she has that fire in her eyes and she's mounting Drogon and Jon has to pull her off of the dragon and stab her in the heart kind of thing. I want her to die in battle, not die as an innocent girl.
Let's go ahead and get into the next part real quick. Then we'll kind of backtrack a little bit. So,
sorry,
no, I know. Well, if this is an emotional part, this is 8 years, decade really in the making because of production and everything like that. So, and freaking, anyways, season 7 to 8. But anyways, John and Daenerys finally they kiss, and it's this really kind of romantic, almost like "You're my only queen," he says, and then we hear, and you knew it was gonna happen. We hear the blade slide in, and John has killed Daenerys. She lays back, and he's holding her much like he did with Ygritte. Blood comes out of her nose and her mouth, and she slowly slips away. Okay, so we know this is the end of Daenerys, our queen, our Khaleesi. Joshua, what did you think of those final moments? What did you think of Daenerys' personality and Jon's words in that moment?
I actually thought it was the other way. I thought she was going to stab him because she kind of sees him as a threat to the throne, like Arya was saying.
Yeah, I think that might have been more realistic, really.
And so I kind of foresaw that coming. It's like when she stabbed him, I think I said, "Oh well, that's where it is."
You did. I was next to you.
And it turns out it was the other way around. So like that kind of fooled me, but I could kind of tell like she was in love with him, but he was clearly not reciprocating.
Yeah,
at that moment. But we'd seen in that last kiss, or the kiss before this one, I guess, that neither of them were really in love anymore. And when she stepped back and said, what was it? She said,
then fear it is, or something like that.
Yeah, then fear it'll be, or something like that.
But you got to remember that moment, she initiated the attempt of having that last piece of love, and he denied her. Yeah. So when he's open to kissing her this moment, it's rekindling those feelings again for her. He is a plot for him.
And right now, she's in that kind of naive, like, we're going to have a beautiful future kind of mindset.
Yeah.
That fire is out. She's no longer the dragon, but she's back to being the queen.
One thing it kind of reminds me of, I'm just going to say, last episode we talked about Nisa and the prophecy of Azor Ahai.
Yeah, but
he did walk slowly, sadly, and then stabbed her. No flaming swords.
Yeah.
They said heart later on. I'm just going to throw that out there too.
Huh?
They did say heart later on in the episode. Because I was like, oh, that's right, sweet.
She got stabbed in the stomach, though.
I know, but they said heart in the show. Like, dialogue-wise, they said heart.
Emotionally, I got you.
Yeah.
She was stabbed in the heart emotionally.
Broken heart, you bastards.
Right. Yeah. But he didn't stab Drogon at all.
No, I know.
There's no dragon death.
My excitement's very thin. Don't get me wrong.
Lion stabbing, no.
Yeah, so we get that moment. Then we hear, oh, boy. It was really kind of a sit at the edge of your seat moment. We hear Drogon yelling in the background, roaring. He feels his mama's gone and is just mourning and furious. A combination of the two. We see him fly around and fly into the room. He's into the room. We're getting this foreboding dragon, this being that's taking over the entire space of the room now, approaching Jon. But then he's at Daenerys, and it's amazing how big this dragon is and how much a little puppy dog he becomes.
Yeah. He's
kind of like shoving Daenerys, like, wake up, mama, kind of thing.
Mama.
Reminds me of Simba and Mufasa.
Oh, God. Cried a little bit.
Well, boy, that moment in theaters, that was tough.
Yeah.
And then to see that again, that was that moment. And then he just, out of pure rage, or we'll have to figure out why, and we think he's going to burn up Jon, which I'm kind of like, okay, then Jon will stand the fire, but that whole thing's nonsense. Anyways, he destroys the Iron Throne, totally melts it down. It's a flat piece of iron now.
Forged of dragon flames.
It was forged of dragon flames. That was gonna take it apart.
Yeah.
He melts it down. Then he picks up Dany. Well, let me finish up the scene real quick. He picks up Dany, and then we hear he flies off to the east. And Drogon is gone with Daenerys. That is the end of Daenerys and Drogon.
Doesn't kill Jon, just picks her up and flies away.
No, he's in full mourning. Okay, so let's break down this a little bit. Why did he burn the Iron Throne?
Do you think he did that with intellect? Because we haven't really seen quite...
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking that might be the case.
We haven't seen the dragons. I mean, I understand in the books it's very different, but we haven't seen in the show that they're smart, intelligent creatures that could almost communicate or anything like that. But that seems like a smart scene, a smart reaction, that he just saw his mom died because of her pursuit for this throne. And he's like, this damn bastardous throne that everybody's fighting over. Why is this so? My people created it, the dragons, of, serving under these Targaryens. Like, my mother had to die because people were fighting over this throne. I'm going to burn it to rubble and then take her and fly away and go
in the deepest parts of Essos, there are hints of how smart the dragons are.
Yeah.
There is even said to be a dragon language. So there are very distant mythological hints that say that they could be smart enough to have that kind of thought.
Yeah.
I think you're overthinking it.
Yeah.
Because like it takes him 2 tries. So at first he like burns everything around it and then he burns it.
Yeah.
And so I don't think he understands necessarily that the throne has anything to do with his mom's death. It's more like he's angry and the only thing he can destroy is the Iron Throne because he can't destroy Jon because he's a Valyrian.
Yeah, exactly.
So he can't
That's what saves Jon.
He can't vent the rage there, so he vents it to the nearest object. Which
And he's looking at Jon just like, I want to, but I can't. And he like turns and then just blows off to one side of the corner.
But why does he not? Because he's Valyrian, because he's a Targaryen. Why would he not still burn him? Why can't he kill him?
Because between Targaryens and Valyrians and their dragons, there's a kinship. It's almost like warging in a way, but it's like a soft version of it. There's a bond between them. That's the reason that in the first place, Jon could even approach them. So there is some merit to that. There's a meme online that's kind of funny that they say like, oh, there's a pointy thing in Daenerys. That thing's made of pointy things. Let me burn that pointy thing. That meme's kind of going around, and it's kind of like, I kind of see it. But I think what it is it's a symbolism for us because I think George R. R. Martin takes a lot of works from Tolkien. He takes a lot of influences from Tolkien. I think the Iron Throne is really the One Ring, right? Yeah. And we've seen it melt in Mount Doom. I think that's what we're getting here. Yeah. This is the destruction of the one thing that's creating so much corruption and destruction in the world. Be gone with it.
Was that the actual breaking of the wheel right there? No, not really. That happened later.
Well, I mean, it kind of is, really. But it kind of is. That thing right there, if Bran or whoever can sit on top of that thing, then it's going to mess things up. Yeah. So I think it could be in a way.
It represents the destruction of the old order, which is based on violence and intimidation.
Yeah. I mean, it's a chair full of swords. So makes sense. Real quick, I just want to throw one thing we had mentioned already. But Dany says those other people don't decide. You know what I'm saying? So she had also said the same exact line that Tyrion had said earlier in the jail cell about you're the one that decides. I think that might have also kind of woken something up in Jon, like, okay, it's time to do some stabby.
Yeah, because she was talking about how great our empire is going to be and blah, blah, blah. And was it Jon that said, well, what about what the people want or whatever? And she's like, well, those people don't get to decide.
Yeah.
Like, so you're not a slaver, but you're going to force the innocent to do what you want.
But Tyrion literally said, you're the one that gets to decide to Jon as he was leaving.
Yeah.
And so when she says nobody else gets to decide, it's reaffirming the fact that, Jon, this is up to you. What do you want to do with the future?
And that she's not necessarily breaking the wheel because she wants only the voice of the highborn to be heard. And her voice as queen. Yeah. And that she's saying their voices don't matter. And Jon's like, well, they kind of do. They're the people that we're here to protect and serve and live with.
Yeah.
So I think their new order that they developed.
I think in her mind, she thinks she's still doing that. I think she still thinks she's protecting the lowest people.
Yeah.
And she thinks that using the way Cersei used the lowest people to kind of protect herself with a shield around herself was the reason they had to be destroyed.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I don't think in general she just wants to kill peasants. I think that was the situation.
But I mean that ruling as a leader who only hears the voices of kings and queens and not necessarily of the peasants, I mean, they don't.
Yeah, that's
create
one thing. I don't think she
but
necessarily wants to have anybody else elevated.
Yeah.
I think she wants them to be peasants than her.
Yeah.
She wants no middle class.
Yeah.
I think that's what it ends up boiling down to. Anyway, so let's go ahead and keep moving along with the story. So I know this is going to be a long one, but I don't want to be here all night. So we get a little bit of a time jump, and we're at the Great Council, this new Great Council that's been formed. It's in the Dragon Pit, and it basically has representatives of the zone, of the Westeros. We have...
How long of a time jump do you think that was? I noticed...
Enough for some good-sized beards to come in.
Yeah, because I noticed we see Tyrion is sunken in the face, looks deprived,
Long
starved.
beard. We see Jon later on with the same situation where he's kind of got this like...
He says the past few weeks.
Okay.
Really? Only a few weeks? A lot of testosterone around there. All right, so Sansa's representing the North, Gendry, the Stormlands. Edmure is the Riverlands, Edmure Tully. Yara's got the Iron Islands. Robin of the Vale is there for the Vale. And we have some sort of Prince of Dorne. By the way, quick aside, how crazy does Robin look as an adult now?
Was that the original actor as a kid?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even pay attention to that.
Dude, I mean, like, pull up the picture. They really made sure to keep up with that whole, like, rich boy doesn't know how peasants work, He's got, like, the full white suit, and he's just like, I like mama's milk. That whole thing.
That's weird.
Yeah, well, that's his MO. And another quick aside, we should mention it because the internet's blowing up about it. There was a couple water bottles behind people's legs.
What?
Yeah, it was a real Starbucks coffee cup situation. It's probably gone already. Right behind Davos and behind Sam's legs. Oh, yeah, Sam's there too.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Robin looks kind of like a grown-up person almost.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And what is Brienne representing? Because she's not from a great house.
No, I know.
And Sir Davos is just there to like mediate because he's from the House of Onion.
Yeah, really.
Hey, I love me some onion.
And this is before they become elevated even higher. So they literally are just base ass knights. So it's kind of weird that they are there, but I think you're right. I think they're just kind of like with others.
Yeah.
Probably Davos is an invitee of Gendry and Brienne of Sansa. So because they have like Arya's there too, Bran's there too. You know, they're there as like homies of Sansa.
But like, hey, I don't know what your guys' whole system is, but we all done been through some shit, so we're gonna be a part of this conversation.
Yeah.
We helped kill the Night King. Hello, Arya right here. Yeah. So
Davos has always been my favorite character. I'm a big fan of him, and I would love to see a spin-off of him just on his adventures.
a prequel.
Yeah, that's basically what I want. I want a prequel.
Yeah.
I want Robert's Rebellion, like we were talking about. Anyways, we'll talk about that on. Okay. I just want to make sure to mention the Great Council has been used before in the past a few times whenever there has been a question of lineage. Mm-hmm. They always bring in the Great Council. It's the lords of all the lands to basically say, okay, this is the one that makes sense to be the new king. And matter of fact, the last Great Council that was assembled was a tournament of Harrenhal, was actually a ruse to have an excuse for all the lords to meet together. While Rhaegar gathered all these lords together, he wanted to find a way to overthrow his father, Mad King Aerys. But there was Lyanna Stark, and he fell in love, and he messed everything up. Robert's Rebellion. Ugh.
All kinds
Good
of
job,
stuff.
Rhaegar.
Right.
Anyways, so Great Councils have been used before in the past. And we hear from... One thing we hear, too, is from the north, there's about, what was it, 10,000 men? 2,000 men?
I don't remember.
It's the same as however many Unsullied there are. There are also Northmen that came down with Sansa to make sure Jon Snow gets out of themselves.
Mm.
I like that.
Yeah.
They want their king. And then, by the way, how funny was this when Sam's like, oh, why don't we have the people vote for who they wanted?
Oh, yeah.
And they just like, no, that's not going to happen. I think this was just like a fan theory. Like, I've always thought, like, oh, they'll go to Senate after this. Mm-hmm. And Senate's basically the same situation. You're voting for your senator or something like that. And they were just shutting that down right aww.
Yeah.
Do you think that system could have worked in Westeros?
No. Well, they've never had anything like that. They've never had a local democracy. So there's no way they could extrapolate that to a national system.
Yeah.
And they don't have the capacity to have like ballot boxes on a continent the size of South America.
Yeah.
And so like it would have eventually just been like a House of Lords. And that's exactly what the Great Council is. So they only just show up when they need to choose a king, and then they can go back and do whatever they want.
I could imagine like your local polling place at this brothel. You know?
Yeah.
2-for-1 deal. But yeah. So do you think that would have worked?
No, like Josh was saying, it would take years of baby steps to get to that level of, because the people don't have a voice. They know they don't have a voice. They've lived for many generations. Only now in modern time does everybody have a voice with social media. Yeah. But I mean, back in the day, it was only like the one person that represented your area or whatever. So I think it would take a lot of time for the people to be prepared to utilize a voice or actually have any kind of authority like that.
That's one thing they mentioned in the past, is that the people that are out there farming or doing whatever don't give a crap who sits on that Iron Throne.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't influence them so much.
Exactly. They just want to go live and die. That's all they care about. So that's true.
Yeah.
They don't have the knowledge to make that kind of decision.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then we get Tyrion's... Well, one thing I like is Grey Worm's kind of like shutting down Tyrion. Mm-hmm. He wants retribution for Daenerys.
Yeah.
And so he's like, no this, no that. And then Tyrion's saying like, look, it's not your place to make decisions here. Mm-hmm. Jon made his crime here. It's supposed to be for the king. He made his crime on Westeros. We need a king of Westeros to make that choice. Great Council, decide. And he makes a good pitch for Bran. Mm-hmm. Okay, guys, here it is. Is Bran a good king? Jonathan, you first.
I like Tyrion's pitch. He does a good job at explaining why Bran would be the best king.
You need that story to sell to the people.
Yeah. Without Tyrion's pitch, I would have said, why the hell are you picking Bran? There's so much more noble, like, battle-ready leaders like Jon who would totally be good kings. But the fact that Jon is the historian, he has the memories of all past and future and knows what to do and how to do it to just better the people. When you look at it like that, you're like, oh, wow, he's like Varys trying to keep the masses, alive, fighting for the living and a better future for everybody. He's not just blindly loyal to one house or another, because he's no longer Brandon Stark, but he's, Brandon the Three-Eyed Raven, who's seen all of history. So he's not necessarily just one person anymore. He's the keeper of history, like you said. So I kind of
That's one thing though. Like just from a quick aside on this, it seems like if you were an outside person looking in, you'd be like, wow, the Starks have way too much influence at this table.
Yeah.
You've got, Sansa, and then she brings a lot of company with her.
Yeah.
Sam, clearly loyal to the Starks.
Yeah.
Bran, if she has any say. Davos, if she has any say. He has any say. You have Robin, who is related to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yara, whose brother was basically a Stark.
So beheaded in season 1, Ned still had a lot of influence. Let's just say he was playing the long game.
Yeah, you're right.
He took them all.
Yeah, yeah. Literally, he has a queen and king in his dynasty,
Man.
and a couple ex-kings.
Good move.
Yeah.
Lose the head, season 1. I'm gonna do that.
All right, gentlemen. Guess what? We're at episode 9. Okay, so yeah, I see what you're saying. Basically, it's he has no legacy. That's where it's good at.
Yeah.
Well, that's English. All right, what did you think, Joshua?
Well, I kind of think like the whole series is kind of like the nerds taking over from the jocks.
Oh yeah.
Because we start off with basically the ultimate frat boy on the throne, and now we have like the ultimate nerd.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true.
And so like all the people, all the jocks basically like killed each other off, and now the nerds have taken over. Yeah. And so that kind of like makes sense because like we're hoping for like an evolution, not a revolution. So we're hoping for like that Westeros has evolved past that need for violence and into a more enlightened society.
There's a slight hint to that because there is no Master of War, no Master of Whispers. There's kind of like all the things you don't quite need.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping like I'm kind of afraid because like Bran is like kind of almost lost his humanity. Like he doesn't really have like any concerns or any cares or any emotion.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm afraid he's almost like he's gonna turn to like Dr. Manhattan from The Watchmen.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Where he's like he's just like a brain and he's like he can't make a decision because he really doesn't care.
Mm-hmm. Currently reading Watchmen, so I'm down with that idea.
Right.
And as terrible as it is. But the actor did come out and say, I just want to throw this in there, that what we're not quite seeing through the limited time we have with the show is Bran that we first saw show up to Winterfell after becoming the Blood Raven has just gotten his powers and is not quite good at balancing them yet. The Bran we see become king is much more of old Bran, who now knows how to tap in and tap out.
Oh, okay.
So that's much more of the old Bran, he says.
I wish they showed
that. They didn't convey that enough.
A small scene to humanize him again a little more would have been huge. Would have made a big difference.
Give us a moment back with Bran.
Yeah.
Being Bran.
Yeah.
With his family and stuff. Even when he's saying goodbye to Jon, doesn't quite feel...
Something showing how great his powers are. Like, if he had just a slight... Like, if he was able to warg slightly into Drogon, just enough to save Jon in the middle of that chaos that was going on, that would have been awesome. That would have showed how great his powers.
Well, for all we know, he did.
True.
Maybe that's why he didn't burn down Jon and burn down the Iron Throne instead, is because he had a little bit of help from Bran.
Being calm.
I wish they would have said something like that. That would make a lot of sense.
That would have been cool.
That would have been cool. Okay, then we see that he makes Tyrion Hand of the King, which is
perfect.
It's perfect.
I
Tyrion,
love that.
when he had his happiest in season 2, Hand of the King.
Yeah.
We see how much Tyrion cares about the people, and the fact that he's right away like, hey, we need to get the water clean around here.
Yeah.
Like he's fantastic for this job.
And not only what little bit he was missing in the caring of the people, which he was already a great guy, but now that experience with Varys and seeing Varys like die, knowing he's gonna die and being sacrificed because what's right is to protect the people as much as I can, no matter which way. I can't turn away and just protect Daenerys just because I think she's a good queen.
Yeah.
So I think that put Tyrion over the edge and opened his eyes a little more to like what he needs to do as Hand of the King and a man with power.
Yeah.
Also, that experience with slavery and like kind of like going from like being a rich boy to being the lowest of the low.
Yeah.
It's kind of humbling.
And he also hates the job, so it's actually kind of helps sell it to Grey Worm.
Right. Is
the fact that no one wants to be the Hand of the King because it's kind of like a bureaucratic, dusty job.
Yeah. Bran even pitches it like he's gonna be fixing all his wrongs.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool. One thing I do like to think about is the fact that I think Bran and Tyrion, well, I think Bran really knows and Tyrion kind of knows, is the fact that Bran's going to be busy doing Three-Eyed Raven stuff. You're basically the king. And that was something that King Robert told Ned Stark, basically. It's like, man, I'm busy whoring and spending money. You got to make me money and keep this place running.
Yeah, I need somebody that's good with paperwork.
Yeah. And so a lot of Bran picking Tyrion, and I think this is actually seen in that moment, is the fact that, like, I need you to actually run this kingdom.
Yeah.
I have the name. You're Tyrion. He was even saying, like, half the people hate me for joining Daenerys. The other half hate me for killing or helping her be killed. And So it's like Bran's names was getting him in the door, but really he's running the kingdoms.
Yeah.
And we see with the small council later on, that's what we needed.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really pretty great.
Yeah.
Sansa says, look, we're not going to be bending the knee up in the north. We've fought and died too many times. We're our own nation. And yeah, definitely. You guys have earned it, right?
So she said they're going to remain in their own independent nation, right?
Yeah.
When were they? When were they? And when were they not an independent nation? Was it just Ned bending a knee to Robert?
No. Before then, when the Targaryens were ramping around, the king at the time of the North said, like, this is smarter if we just bend the knee, join the Targaryens and save my people.
I see.
The Starks have always been, the Northmen really have always been a stubborn, independent people, but a pragmatist as well. They understand the situation.
Yeah.
So. And it makes sense geographically. They're like basically disconnected except for like a tiny little peninsula with one castle on it.
Yeah.
And like I think in the books he says like it's double the size of the rest of the kingdoms. Like all the rest of the kingdoms together could fit in the north.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes sense that they kind of control themselves. I mean, they've kind of basically been doing that already.
And historically, there actually are different people. Yeah. One is the First Men. The other one is the Andals. Mm-hmm. So they actually are like genetically different people. And we see that in how they handle the North, you know. Some of them are like, yeah, it's just another day in snow. And the other one's like, it's a bit cold up here, guys. So, you know, they actually are different people. So it kind of makes sense. Okay, so, and the punishment for Jon, the last thing to get Grey Worm off everybody's back, Jon's taking the black.
That was perfect. Because from this perspective, during that episode, you think, oh, man, that sucks. Jon's not going to be king. He's got to go north. He's going to be stuck on the wall like, you know, season 1. But no, just the last episode or two when he was saying bye to Tormund, we're like, man, I wish he could just go with him. You could see in his eyes he really just wants to be free and not have to be stuck with this Dany that he loves.
A little bit,
yeah, so that was the perfect solution for him. Maybe not for everybody, but for him that was the beautiful like future that he wanted, just to go and be a free man and live on his own.
Yeah. So let's this point. Now that we're at this point, let's go ahead and write off each of our characters, okay? Right. So we'll start with Jon. Since we're at a really good moment, I kind of want to discuss this a lot. So we see Jon. He's walking around. Grey Worm's like, okay, yeah, you guys are out. He does get to the north. He gets to the wall. I had to look this up, but they did say he becomes Lord Commander, the 1,000th Lord Commander.
Nice.
And then we see him with Ghost again. Boy, that was some fan service, wasn't it? I'd almost guarantee you that they mid-season, like, hey, we need to get Kit Harington in here real quick. Quick, put the Jon Snow mask on or whatever. Get him petting a CGI wolf. We have fans that are riding at the gates.
Right.
Anyways, we see him with Ghost, who looks like he needs to take a bath. Reminds me of your dog Elsa, because she's also that white-haired.
True.
And as soon as she give her a bath, she goes finds the nearest mud pile and rolls around.
Cat poop. Yeah.
Cat poop.
She rolls in cat poop. I don't know why.
So Ghost currently looks like your dog.
Yeah.
and so he's for where. But anyways, they end up like walking above the north. Ideally, he's helping them kind of find their home back in the north. You know, he's the Lord Commander and ranging. You know, that's what Rangers do.
Yeah.
But we do kind of get a hint. The door's closed behind him, which is normal. Mm-hmm. He looks back and he kind of gives like as close to a smile that Jon Snow gives.
I know.
And it's not much. And then there's another hint of something else there too. And then he's riding off and he's kind of almost, it's not like he's in the front with Tormund anymore. You'll note that after that, he's kind of like in the middle of them all. Mm-hmm. I think that's where he wants to be.
He's blending in with the crowd. He's going to go be a man living in the north, no longer with the threat of the Night King or the...
Yeah, well, okay, I'm glad you said that. So I think there's a little something there. So we saw a little piece of grass grow, and they made sure to really show it, which could mean without the Night King up there anymore, maybe it will not be forever winter.
And I think that's kind of a reverse of what we've seen all 7 or 8 seasons. Summer's coming. Like,
yeah,
with the whole winter's coming, you know, hunker down, it's going to be hard. Now, this is all done. Like, summer's coming, stuff's going to bloom. There's new beginnings.
Season-wise, in Westeros, it's kind of wackadoo. So, this summer lasted, 7 years, which is considered a long summer for them.
Yeah.
Winter means that, what that normally means is the winter's going to last real long, too.
Yeah.
Winter, lasts maybe 2 years of the show, at the end of the last couple of seasons, and then it's summer again, and then we don't know when winter will ever come back. Mm-hmm. So really, I know it's like, oh, great, it's summer, but it's like, we haven't had enough winter yet, guys. You're going to run out of water real quick.
Yeah.
You know how this works.
Droughts.
Yeah, we're looking at droughts pretty soon. There's no snow coming down the hills. But nevertheless, so for the Jon character, do you think this is a satisfying end? What do you think what's that last moment mean for Jon? Is he still Lord Commander? I think he's still sticking with duty because he killed Daenerys almost out of duty.
I think he doesn't want to be Lord Commander, and he's happy to just go be a free man. So maybe
Yeah. At first I thought that too. Yeah.
Maybe some people are still holding him to that name. I mean, I didn't see them. You're saying that technically he is Lord Commander now as soon as he reached the wall.
Yeah, I just looked it up and they're saying that online.
But to me, like you're saying, as soon as he rode off on a horse or, was north of the wall and the door closed behind him, he's a free man. He's no longer duty bound by anybody.
Well, he could have still been Lord Commander and then decide I'm going north. It has happened countless times where Men of the Black decide to stay with the wildlings. Matter of fact, the Night King, the original Night King, was a Lord Commander that fell in love with this White Witch and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's infamously happened. I mean, we could actually be seeing the future Night King. I don't want to get into that.
I think he's just kind of taken up the offer from Ygritte from many years ago that, you know what, this is going to be a peaceful, simple life you can live now. And you don't have to, your siblings are taken care of. They're going to be okay. The living are okay. Yeah. You can lay down your sword and go retire, pretty much, is what it is for him.
What do you think, Joshua?
I think it's kind of do what Bran is doing. So like he's just gonna have the Maester run everything, and like he's because he's always a man of action. Like he always wants to be out there, and so I think he's kind of like gonna be basically turn himself into like a first ranger, like in theory, like in practice,
like his uncle,
and just go out and like do all the wildling things and like have like a Maester, like a second in charge, be like the actual power.
Yeah.
I kind of like the fact that he's like not the king because that kind of shatters our illusions. We've almost bought into the illusion as an audience that your name entitles you to a position in society. And that's not what the wildlings believe, and that's not what Jon believes either. The fact that I don't want to be in the South being king. I want to be a place where no one recognizes my name, and that's not a curse on me.
You're right.
And I can be my own man. So that the wall, I think the wall can still be that place because, as I say, they all come in like bastards, king's sons, murderers, and they all become part of the Watch.
Yeah. I think arc-wise, it's a wonderful and beautiful ending because we start off in season 1, early on, we have a young Jon Snow who just wants to make his name somewhere. He sees the Night's Watch as a place to make his name. My Uncle Benjen works there. And, I got one brother who's going to be Lord of Winterfell, and I got another brother who, if that one guy goes, Bran's got it. So there's like little to no chance that I would become Lord of Winterfell. So he sees the Night's Watch as a place to make his name. Yeah. He raises to, then we see his arc happen. We see him go through crazy times, and he gets responsibility and really the lore thrusted on him, where he becomes so amazing and stuff like that to everybody else. And it's stuff that he doesn't want to happen. He wants to just kind of not have this kind of responsibility. So then we see him use the Night's Watch in a different way, what it actually was intended to do, where he's a highborn person with a name. He goes to the Night's Watch, and we see him kind of just fade into the shadow or into the haunted forest with the wildlings. It's him embracing the Night's Watch to erase his name. He wants to be forgotten now. Not like season 1 Jon Snow. This is Jon Snow of no name. Jon Snow of the first season, if he knew he was Aegon Targaryen, would have a far different attitude than Jon Snow now, who literally is just trying to be erased. He wants to be finished. Yeah. Like, I think it's a beautiful arc for that character to go so high and then to realize I don't want that. I just want to be me.
And I wonder if that's supposed to be, I don't know, just in the writers, if that's supposed to be a little bit of a reflection on all of us that, you want to be the maximum that you can be. You want to be the owner of your company. You want to be the president of the United States. You want to be so big and powerful and control your entire environment. But sometimes, like, if you run your own business, you might realize that it's easier just to be an employee and clock in and out and do the best job you can as an underling and make your employer happy, satisfy yourself, and go home and be able to enjoy your time with your family and not completely control all of your environment, but live in a happy medium.
But if you got even thinking of their situation there, if everybody else around you said, you should be the boss and make you the boss when you're really just trying to live your days. Yeah. Like earlier on, he was like that, but it doesn't take long before he's just like, I'm just trying to do my own thing. Yeah. And people keep escalating him to where all of a sudden he finds himself as CEO and doesn't know what the hell's going on. Yeah. And then he has to he falls in love with one girl, but he's betraying her. Yeah. Then he falls in love with another girl, then he has to betray her to save everybody. And he doesn't want to save anybody anymore. He just wants to relax and hunt deer. And you could tell when he's with the wildlings, him and Torment are still going to be palling around, saving them from bears or something like that. I can't wait. I want it to be a spinoff. Yeah. Torment and Jon. I'm singing the sitcom music now. But I really like to see that. What do you think of that whole arc of Jon? Do you think that makes sense that he just wanted to disappear?
I think so. Like, he's always said, like, I don't want power. And, like, every time, like, people keep putting power on him, like, his friend Samuel, like, made him Lord Commander, essentially, like, rigging the election. And so like he's always been reluctant to have power, and so like we kind of have this like theory that like those who are best in power are the ones who don't want it.
Yeah.
But he doesn't. He'd be completely unhappy there. So like from an individual perspective, that's perfect.
Yeah. Even when he died, he was like, well, okay, like just leave me there.
Yeah.
And then they had mentioned it later on. It's like, oh, even you came back from it. It's like, not by my choice.
Yeah.
You know, somebody had said that later on. So, okay, so let's go ahead and get into Sansa. We see that, you know, as they say goodbye to Jon, yada yada yada. She's gonna go become Queen of the North, and I really like, you know, we see a moment where she's getting fitted for her new dress. Which, by the way, costume design, how awesome was that dress?
I'm hoping they make some Halloween ones because it's on point. Even her makeup, her jewelry. I mean, she has the same chain that she had before, which is very regal.
Mm-hmm.
But her makeup and everything, she just looks so much more regal as we see her grow as a character. So,
did you notice anything special with that dress, Joshua?
No, I didn't.
The inlay of the dress was white with red leaves, which is the weirwood trees.
Yeah.
Which I thought was like, man, that detail.
And they showed a close up of it at some point when she was getting dressed. Yeah, that was really cool.
The costume work on this show. I mean, just dump a pile of Emmys. Somebody get a dump truck full of HBO.
Dump truck full.
So yeah, and then she becomes crowned. This is all at her coronation, and she's gonna become Queen of the North. Yep. I think she's gonna do a good job. We've seen in the past couple seasons that she's like really paying attention to how the castle runs. Like the example everybody uses is they're preparing for war, and she's like, do you have leather inside those armors? Oh, no, we don't. You should. It's going to be cold. So things like that. I think she's going to do well. What do you guys think of Sansa in the North?
To me, it makes sense because she's basically been practicing her whole life. Ever since she was a girl, she's like, I want to be a lady.
Yeah.
And so what's happened is like over the course of the series, she's been like going just past like the pretty princess fairy tale and has been exposed to like the actual real workings of power. So she's learned from the best. She's learned from Cersei. She's learned from Lady Olenna. She's learned from Littlefinger. And so she has learned from some of the best manipulators on the continent. Yeah. And so I think she'll do a relatively good job.
Yeah, and I think we've seen a lot of growth in her too, because early on she just wanted to get out of Westeros. She wanted to be a summer child and everything like that. And then we see her now embracing Winterfell. We see her embracing Winterfell as her home and surrounding her with her people. She relates to them better. She really sees them, you know, like before she wasn't. Yeah. How do you think she's going to do?
Yeah, I think she's going to be amazing because like Josh was saying, she's grown so much. And if she didn't leave Winterfell and she was just raised as a northern girl and that was all she knew, she would have been the same naive little girl we knew. But like you're saying, we saw her study under Littlefinger and Cersei and, you know, so many other people that she's very well rounded and knows that strategic manipulative game that everybody else is playing. So I think she's well prepared to stand her own as a Lord of the North, Warden of the North.
Well, yeah, Queen.
She's
Queen of the North, yeah.
Oh, yeah, because they're no longer part of the Seven Kingdoms. Yeah. You're right. Yeah.
Oh, I even like earlier on when Tyrion's like, Bran, king of the Six Kingdoms, and kind of gives her a look like, all right, little mistress.
Difficult. It rolled off the tongue so good, but whatever. We're going to go down to
change a few centuries.
Let's make another kingdom just so it's 7 again.
Split up a Dorne, you know?
There you go.
Okay, so yeah, I think Sansa's going to do well. Then we have Arya. She is new pirate Arya, going pirates out. First off, how awesome is that new ship?
Yeah.
What's the name of that ship, guys?
I don't know.
It's got to be Nymeria, right? Why would you not name that ship Nymeria?
I don't know.
It's all starked out.
Yeah, but it's a ship. Nymeria is, landbound.
I know, but I want it to be named Nymeria.
It looks cool.
I was thinking about the Jack London novel calling it the Sea Wolf.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
That's cool.
I like it.
I like that idea. All right, so she's going to go and see what's west of Westeros. It's something that she claimed back in season 6.
It'd be really cool if she named it the Hound, though.
The Hound?
Yeah.
Ooh, all right, nice job.
Respectfully,
Fair enough. Okay, so, we're going to just see her explore and just see what's out there.
Yeah.
This has been done in the past before in lore, so we'll talk about that in a second. But, Joshua, I know you're itching, man. What'd you think of this?
I didn't like it. It felt like a really sudden turn for her. I mean, she's only been on a ship twice in her life.
Yeah.
And so this feels like all of a sudden she wants to be Columbus. Like she's devoted her entire life to like killing people, and now like all of a sudden she's just like out of the blue, I want to become an explorer. So it feels like a real sudden twist. And I know I said that maybe she should. Like, I don't know why she's the one doing this. I mean, the Iron Islanders would be perfect for this because
maybe she saw Yara and was like, I like that look.
Nice dress.
So Yara would be like the perfect person for that because she's like an Iron Islander. It's just some of them probably been like in a storm and like out somewhere, and so Arya should have asked Yara for help, but no, she's got the wolf sails, so it's like an all northern thing.
Yeah, I liked it just because it fits so many women in history of Westeros. That we have, Nymeria is one of them, who was, an invader and stuff like that. We actually have, I made sure to write it down, Alisa Westhill, who was famous for doing this. She was actually a friend of the Targaryens, and she ended up stealing 3 dragon eggs, possibly the dragon eggs that Daenerys got later on. Just saying.
That's cool. I like it. She
sold them to build this new ship called the Sun Chaser. Coolest name ever for a ship. And she sailed west of Westeros. And some of her crew survived, but she's kind of never heard of before again, except for like myths of like, oh, we saw her in this place and this place, all on the eastern side of Essos, saying that basically she had sailed around the world. So it follows Arya, like Lyanna Stark. And so every time we hear about Arya and her attitude, there's always been somebody in history who is an Arya beforehand. So I kind of feel like this just follows that track of just like, nobody's going to hold me down. I'm going to go out there and see what the hell there is to see.
Yeah.
So I kind of like that part of it.
I like it because the character that she's grown to be, we know her as like an assassin. She's not afraid to, slit a throat and take the actions that need to be taken, but that's really well played in war. But we're now in a time of peace. So she has to find out who she is again, and I don't think she's ready to take us on that journey. She's just going to go figure out who she is on her own. Yeah. However, like Josh was saying, I don't think she's as just a generic audience member, we could just say that's great, she's going to go have an adventure. If she's going to have an adventure on land is one thing, but in reality, going out into sea is a totally different thing. You really have to be prepared. You have to be a person who knows how to travel the sea.
I think it's less about going on the seas, except I think it's more about, for her, she thinks she's going to find land.
Yeah.
And then explore that land. And then she's going to be a swashbuckler, and she's not necessarily going to be on the sea too long.
Yeah.
She doesn't know how long Westeros is.
But yeah. So I think it was a perfect way to write out her character, to just continue, like, she has all these adventures ahead we don't know of, and she's gonna journey the world and see where it takes her, and not necessarily tie herself down to any firm plans or commitment.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
All right, I'm gonna say a joke that's only gonna land with a few people. Okay,
I like it. I'm excited.
So for you World of Warcraft fans, she went from assassin rogue to outlaw rogue. Dun dun dun. Trust me, there's a lot of people that are just like, oh my god.
Oh my god.
It makes sense if you're a World of Warcraft fan. Okay, heading to Bran. Bran's king. We kind of already talked a lot about how well of a king he'll be.
Yeah.
I did like that we saw him during the small council kind of come in and be like, everything's running well. I'm going to go find Drogon.
Now, one thing I noted, as everybody knows, Tyrion named him very clearly, prominently repeated, as Bran the Broken.
Yeah.
Which was kind of funny and kind of cool, but he's the three-eyed raven, so though he's crippled, I would have called him Bran the Wise or Bran the All-Seeing or something of great power and wisdom and knowledge.
The story is that he's broken and risen. Yeah. So you have to name him something for the story. Plus, I really like it because it bounces off of Bran the Builder.
Yeah.
I like the idea that Builder and Broken.
And it also goes into medieval history. There's a lot of French kings like Charles the Fat, Charles the Bald, who's probably actually very hairy. And so there's like a whole bunch of like jokes about like medieval kings with like their nicknames like that.
It really pitches well for getting them back into the groove of things.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right,
if you're to go, it would be nice to go like Jaehaerys the Wise. It would be nice to do that, but if it fits well. And that's another thing too, is George R. R. Martin, his love for European history is renowned, especially in Britannia. Yeah. He's just a big fan of it, so he always leans on it. So I like Bran around his king, and he seems to be like, I'm gonna go catch Drogon, or I'm gonna go find Drogon.
Yeah,
that'd be cool if
He asks, have you guys seen which way did he go? Has he been seen or something like that? And Tyrion says, no, we have no clue or something like that. He's like, okay, don't worry, I'll find him, or I'll try to find him or something like that. That was kind of
Which cool. I think if he finds him, he's gonna try to kill him.
Yeah,
because it's unsafe to have that dragon out
or tame him.
I think he understands that you got to get rid of all magic. Well, he's magic, but
I think you're the one who's told me before that the dragons, at least in Game of Thrones, are asexual, so they can lay eggs and produce their own children without a mate. So
I think he's going back to Valyria, where it's kind of well designed for them to breed.
Yeah,
and he's gonna make some babies.
Nice.
So he, whatever either one.
Rise of the Dragons.
All right, Jaime's story and everything like that. We saw him die last season. We saw the confirmation this episode. Or last episode. Do you guys think he had a pretty good arc?
Yeah, I think he had an amazing arc. He went from being like, the pretty much a douchebag.
We hated him that first episode.
Yeah.
He pushed Bran out the window.
He crippled Bran.
He went from Kingslayer to Kingmaker.
Damn,
full of good ones today.
Mind blowing. But yeah, he went from made a douchebag to being a pretty cool guy to being an honorable knight to now like embracing Cersei in their final moments, just being a dying lover boy kind of thing. Like it's like heartbreaking to see him go. She can die any day, but
I like the way they went.
It was a very well written arc, I think.
What'd you think of Jaime's total arc? I think it was good.
Yeah, I love the way that he changed. Like the moment he couldn't do what he was born to do, which was kill people.
Yeah.
With his right hand, like he began to change. Yeah. I'm not quite sure. I love the way he ended. I was hoping for a little more hope, but like he was addicted to Cersei, and his addiction killed him.
Yeah, that's George R. R. Martin is really great about showing us the reality of the moment, where the best he could hope for is something he's already said he wanted in the past. Dying in the arms of somebody he loves. Mm-hmm. That's what he got. That's what he wanted.
If I could change anything in his story, was a little of how that whole situation with Brienne went, because I felt heartbroken the way he just left her and went for Cersei, even though, she needed that. But I do love how it showed her writing his story. Yeah. She's making history, because that is how history is made, is just writing on the stories of what happened and how she left it. What was, I can't remember the final words.
He died protecting his queen.
That's what it was. Yeah. Oh man, that was
which was nice. That was a good way of kind of like telling the truth, but with
his name could have been slandered so bad that he was a Kingslayer and he went to save his sister who he had an affair with and blah blah blah. It could have been made so terrible. It was made honorable and it was cool.
I like how she stopped to kind of like, you kind of saw her think about it like, yeah, okay. That was an okay way to roll.
Good conclusion. Yeah,
I like Brienne in total, and then we got Podrick also joins the King. So she's Lord Commander of the Kingsguard, and Pod is a member of the Kingsguard as well.
Yeah.
What do you think of those two?
I think Brienne was a very good choice. She's clearly qualified. Oh, yeah. She's very loyal. Mm-hmm. I think Pod, that was like a little bit too much of nepotism. Yeah, we're trying to create a meritocracy here, and now we just have someone protecting the king because
they're kind of running out of choices.
Because he's a friend of the boss. So
yeah, which is how it used to be.
True.
Yeah. But I did like it. I liked the idea that in the story where all of our major heroes didn't get the end we necessarily wanted, the small ones we do. We see Davos and Bronn all raise up. A lot of small
victories.
Speaking of our major heroes, Cersei. Did you guys like her total arc? I think it didn't quite show what we see in the books, so I'm not a big fan of it.
Yeah, I thought it was a little disappointing in the end, because I just didn't like the way they tried to humanize her at the end.
Yeah.
I would have, just like Daenerys. I don't know what it is, but I'd rather see, if I hate somebody, I want to see him die in pain and hatred and not in pity and mercy. But we see, just like Daenerys, Cersei starts crying when she's about to die, and she's afraid and she's scared. Yeah, she's vulnerable and weak, and she knows it, and then she dies. But she was just super willing to kill all of her citizens and put them in danger's way to protect herself and this chance. And
but how many
stupidity and ignorance?
How many evil dictators or people in this world are just that? They're just people.
Yeah.
So we see them become vicious and evil and stuff like that, and we think like, oh, those are acts of an evil person, a demon almost.
Yeah.
When at the end, when she's dying, we realize, no, these were the acts of just a person who happened to be in charge. And it kind of humanizes her and puts humanity on check. Like, you can't just subjugate her to be something out of our world or out of our humanity. She's a member of our humanity, and we're showing you that in the last moment of her death. All of her hatred and destruction came from just a human who is now realizing that this is her demise.
Yeah. But a well-placed dagger between either her or Daenerys could have stopped a lot of death.
Well, what'd you think? Well, who's got daggers? It's Arya. She should have done it.
Or Tyrion.
I kind of liked her arc because, I don't know, but I kind of like the middle of it, because that kind of showed, yes, she's a terrible person, but she also really loves her children.
Yeah.
And so the fact after her last child dies is when she goes completely off the rails.
Yeah.
And so after that, once she went off the rails, I really didn't care for her anymore.
Yeah.
But until then, she was such a compelling character because she was that mix. She was doing terrible, awful things, committing acts of terrorism and betraying everyone. But she seemed to have a very pure motive for doing that.
Yeah.
And when she lost that motive, I kind of lost interest in her as a character.
One thing that, in the books, and Joshua, you've read the books, so you can adjust to this, or, adhere to this whatever I'm trying to say.
Contest?
Yeah. Either way, in the book, she seems to be going crazier more often. We see, I think the last thing I can remember of her, she burns down the house of the hand, or the Tower of the Hand. You remember that?
No, I don't think that happens in the books.
I'm pretty sure that happened in the books. And I think maybe it's in a little excerpt from the future book. Maybe it is, but I'm pretty sure she burns down after her father dies. And we see her really start to slip. There's all this whole thing. Are the Kettle Blacks, is that their name? Like the brothers that she's like sleeping with and like having them turn on other people and stuff. It's a whole mess. She's like wreaking havoc in that town. So we see her like descend faster into insanity. So I would like to see that version of Circe, because this version with Circe, that whole second to last episode, we saw her just stand in the tower very subdued while Daenerys was flying towards her.
Yeah.
And I kind of wanted to see her like freak out and just like randomly stab Qyburn. You couldn't kill her, and just like kind of just really flipping out.
A little more insanity with more brilliant strategy. Like, she doesn't show that much at all in the later seasons.
Well, that's the thing, is I don't necessarily want her to have the brilliant strategy, because I think each one of the Tywin children have a piece of Tywin.
Yeah.
And I think the brilliant strategy belongs to Tyrion.
Yeah.
But his ruthlessness belongs to her. And so I would like to see her kind of, you know who I think she should be is Princess, I can't think of her name. The one from Avatar: The Last Airbender, the Fire Lord's daughter. That her finale is just her going crazy and being chained up.
Gosh, Zoku and
I know
everybody's screaming it.
Everybody's
at the
screaming
mic.
in their iPhones. But anyways, yeah.
Sorry.
So I think it's that moment. I would like to see that where she's just at the end unbound insanity. So John's gonna go ahead and look that up. We'll go ahead and go on to the next character while you're doing that. Davos, and we'll go ahead and add Bronn to this. We see them on the small council, and it's ran by Tyrion. Tyrion, of course, the Hand of the King, and I like how he kind of cleans up all the seats.
Azula.
Princess Azula. She's amazing. You guys, Last Airbender, some of the best storytelling out there.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so he's kind of like fixing the seats, making sure they look all pretty and nice, kind of like, we're going to be, classy around here. Then you have Bronn and Davos come in, Anya Knight and Lord of Highgarden Bronn.
Yeah,
it's just freaking nuts.
Accidentally.
Now the wealthiest man in the kingdoms.
Yeah.
They come in and just like, drag the seat over here. I'm having a seat. And Sam comes in, who for some reason now is Grand Maester. I think he got talk about nepotism. He got his way in
Running
there.
out of good people.
Yeah.
No, he's great.
He basically stole books from Old Town, so he really shouldn't be there, the Citadel. But anyways.
But stealing books did save, the living, kind of.
The living, yeah.
Yeah, more or less.
So anyways, what do you guys think of the small council? The end of Davos and Bronn. What do you think of that, Joshua?
I love the chemistry they have.
Yeah.
They have like a beautiful comedic chemistry. I kind of think like Bronn got over rewarded because like he's like a sellsword. Like he betrays the Lannister. He basically betrays everyone at some point.
Yeah.
And so I kind of like don't like the fact that he's now like a lord. But I guess that's kind of like the point. It's like the lords became lords by just being like the biggest scumbags in the land.
Something he brought up in this season. He brought that up. Yeah.
So I guess in a way that kind of makes sense, but it still kind of feels like super unjust.
I think the symbolism of him becoming Lord of, or whatever, the Lord of the Coin, whatever, Master of Coin, is the fact that he's always about money. But that doesn't necessarily mean he's good at money.
Yeah.
The Master of Coin needs to increase productivity of the cash flow. They need more money coming in.
Yeah.
And just because he's good at making money or cares about money a lot doesn't mean that he'll be good at this role.
Managing money.
Thank you. I think it's mostly just kind of like, oh, that's cute because he's all about money. So now he's in charge of the highest kingdom. He's,
and it's like we got,
Lord of Highgarden.
5 or 6 people, that we trust or that we've been through the shit with. Not that we really trust, but we got 5 or 6 guys.
Yeah.
What roles are we going to put him in? Let's pick some spots.
It'd be way funnier if like some guy named Ted sat down.
Yeah.
Like, Ted, you guys didn't know about Ted? He's hella good at coins.
Right.
He's not good at battles, that's why you haven't seen him.
Yeah.
But trust me, you know how all those soldiers got fed? That was Ted.
Right. He heard about the dragons, so he's been staying far south, but he was ready. He was
spooked.
He's been sending ravens like you wouldn't believe.
You should see this guy with QuickBooks. It's nuts.
Right, our accounts are straight. Check it out.
Audited 15 times, never a problem.
Right.
And so it actually kind of makes sense that Bronn, now that he's like Lord of Highgarden, is Lord of Coin.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of times like that just like kind of like you have to make personal donations.
Yeah.
To make that all work out. And so like it kind of makes sense for like the wealthiest person. I think like the previous Lord of Highgarden was also Master of Coin.
He was, when it was Tommen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then before then, like Tywin always had like a big say in what happened at King's Landing because it was his funds that were running a lot of the show.
Yeah.
We saw Littlefinger talk about how in debt they were to him. And then Davos is master of ships. And I love Davos. So the idea of him like being the master of ships and just being the master of anything is kind of like, yeah, all right. No, I mean, I don't want to be it. I can read now. That's cool.
They want to give him a big kind of job of respect because they want to keep him around. Like, you did so much for us. We owe you a lot. Hey, we got to keep you in our inner circle. You know, all of our ships have been destroyed in these massive battles, so we're going to give you something to do and some authority over, some people or whatever.
And it makes sense over ships. He's always been a ship guy.
We'll allocate you some funds.
I kind of wanted him to be the Whisper one, just because I think he gets along with that level of people.
I don't know.
The peasants. But he's not, they always say Whisper's kind of like a schemy thing.
Yeah, he's not a shit talker.
Yeah.
He's more bold and to your face and honest than Varys would have been.
I do like their little back and forth of like, hey, I need money for ships. No, we don't have money for ships. Hey, we need brothels. That should be where the money goes. No, we probably need ships more. Well, then you haven't been using a brothel the right way.
That was hilarious. You've been using them wrong.
Yeah. You a good fan of Davos being the master of ships?
Kind of, although I think he's always been like more of a diplomat because like that's where we always see him. We always see him as like being the diplomat for Stannis, being the diplomat at the High Council, basically when they're about to kill each other, and he calms everything down. So like I would have liked to see him like being sent out to Essos and like having his own ship and going out to Essos and kind of like being like the likable rogue diplomat that's like
ambassador of Westeros.
Yes, that's I think that would have been a better role for him, the master of ships, because
that would have been good.
But it's a high honor, and it's like. Yeah, he started off as a smuggler, and now he's like the admiral of their navy. So it works out.
Yeah, and here the last naval battle he was in, he failed pretty hard. But all right, that's all right. Yeah, but I always just like Davos, so that's cool. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to next. Grey Worm. He's heading to Essos, boys. He's going to Noth.
Yeah,
I really loved that.
I thought Noth was in the Summer Isles.
Well, I mean, you got to go past Essos, unless he's going to go west of Westeros.
Dang.
But you got to go past Essos to get to the Summer Isles. But yeah, he's going to go, and that's Missandei's native homeland. They talk about how they don't have weapons and soldiers and warriors or whatever. So they're going to go there, ideally just to protect them. And
hopefully, oh God, don't bring in that ideally question mark. Oh, they might go protect him, or they might be raiding and pillaging and just murdering everybody because they know they don't carry weapons.
Grey Worm just heard about this sweet spot where there's no protection.
Right?
He's not going to lose a single soldier.
No, but out of respect for Missandei, we can imagine he's going to go there and be their military, their armed forces.
I think it's the return of a little bit of humanity, like the idea that he has hope in honoring Missandei, bringing her back.
Yeah.
He's not throwing the slave collar away because he's forgetting about her, because that's not her anymore.
Yeah.
So he's going to go protect her home before she was a slave.
Yeah.
What do you think about this?
A big unanswered question that we have is like, what's happening on Slaver's Bay? Because the moment Daenerys leaves it, we know nothing about it.
We have heard whispers that like Asapor's gone and Marine's been in shambles because she left it with what's his name? Dondarrion?
Yeah.
Right? So we hear Slaver's Bay is a mess now, and it's because Daenerys is a hell of a good invader, not a great ruler.
Yeah,
and
she needs to be followed by a great ruler.
So the question is it would be great if like the Unsullied go to like somewhere else to protect people from slavers.
Yeah,
but like, is that still a problem on Slaver's Bay? And we don't know yet because we don't know if they're following their treaty with Daenerys, or they're like, oh, she's gone, we can do whatever we want.
I think they do mention that they're not following her treaty anymore. I think they mentioned that they're all wreaking havoc.
Yeah,
I think Dondarrion even like opened up the fighting pits and everything like that. Is what they were saying, something like that. If I remember correctly.
And I don't think Grey Worm's really concerned with her standards and morals of let's free the slaves and make peace and stuff like that. He's kind of abandoned all that. With Missandei's death, he kind of gave up on all what he had. He's just like, I'm going to go back and honor her. This is what she wanted, and I'm going to protect her people, because that was kind of our end game. Is after all this is said and done, we'll go back to her land and live a peaceful life and protect those who can't protect themselves. So I think he's just taking that up on his own.
Yeah. Okay, so real quick, let's jump back on this moment that you and me were talking about before, Joshua. One thing that pacified Grey Worm was when Tyrion said, "This is what our queen wanted, to break the wheel."
Yeah.
And the fact that they were going to now, instead of having it be the son of the king that chooses, or the new king, it'll now be an elected person from the lords of the Six Kingdoms. Mm-hmm. Do you think, how did that pacify Grey Worm? It doesn't seem like it'd be enough.
That's hard. I mean, because he has power and authority in the fact that he controls the Unsullied.
Yeah.
He has one of a couple. I mean, we know at that situation he is faced with the Stark army who's ready to battle him, and he doesn't want to lose what left he has of his soldiers. He doesn't have much to fight for anymore. Pretty much nothing to fight for.
Yeah.
His queen has died. So I think he's just kind of like, he's fighting for her honor. He's arguing for her honor at that point.
Yeah.
But like I said, there's not much to fight for. So he's, she wanted this. Let's push for this. But in the end, he knows he's going to sail off a different direction and say, forget you guys. I'm not going to sit here and lose the last of my men and lose my life for a queen that's not alive anymore. So,
and for people that I do not care about.
Yeah.
He was not about to settle down on the Reach. He was like, I don't need things. Like, he really was done with you guys.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think he was just kind of ready to get out of there, but still he was ready. He wanted to get justice, is what it was. I think he wanted.
I like that. Yeah,
he wanted to kill Tyrion. He wanted to kill Jon. He wanted to kill everybody in that area and then leave. But he knew he couldn't get his men out alive if he was to do that. So
I think. Well, I mean, on that note, I think it was 10,000 versus 10,000.
Yeah,
and then you got to think one of those two armies is Unsullied army, and they are a defending army inside of what's left of a castle. Yeah. So I think that they would have hurt the North a lot more than they got hurt. But still,
and the other one's probably not much North soldiers. It's the stragglers of what was rounded up, which was a lot of women and children. So
you guys have survived 2 Thanos snaps the entire.
It's probably 10,000 versus a few hundred good strong men.
Yeah. It's like some sheep farmers I got this, guys.
Yeah, right? And a couple sheep.
Yeah. Put some nice suits on. I'm trust me, it'll work.
Yeah.
What'd you think of that?
So I like the way that Tyrion reframed what Daenerys was fighting for, because she believed in hereditary rights. The only reason why she came to Westeros was hereditary rights.
Right.
True.
And so
that's a good point.
And so I think I love the way that he reframed it, and so he allowed Grey Worm the opportunity to do what Grey Worm wanted, which I think was actually Daenerys' true intention of letting the slaves have freedom, including the Unsullied, while also saying oh yeah, you're helping complete her mission.
Yeah, it was a good way. I like that idea. The idea that she doesn't care about lineage
blood rights
is crazy, because that's her whole thing.
Yeah,
is Baratheons didn't have blood rights.
But he painted a good picture of what would have, at least what sold well to Grey Worm as Daenerys' true purpose.
Because she couldn't have children, so you could argue that. Is that she didn't have plans to have her own children and then pass it on to that child.
I like that. That it was a little
unless Drogon was going to be king.
Oh, so much better.
What do you think? Should we have a tournament or just eat a bunch of sheep? I think sheep's going to win every time.
Just feed the king. Just keep feeding him. I like it.
All right, so let's wrap it up with our last big character we're going to talk about is Daenerys. Big controversy over how she was written out, and I think that was just the case of, hey, we only have so many more seasons to go. I think in the books it'll be far different, and I truly love this show, so I think that they did the best they could. There's nobody who's in the part of this project at all that doesn't care about this project. They've dedicated their life to this. So in that, keeping that in mind, of keeping respect in mind, how do you think Daenerys' arc went out? John?
I loved her arc because the writers did such a beautiful job at making us fall in love with her. Yeah. Because they introduced her as a child. She was just an innocent little girl who was being dragged around by her bully brother. Yeah. Eventually her brother was murdered, which was kind of great. But then in the process, she was sold off to this big, powerful leader. She kind of, because of his gentleness and I don't know, respect, she kind of fell in love with her husband. But then he was taken from her, and she was wronged and hurt, and found the power of a mother of dragons and brought her children to be born, her dragons. And then she was empowered and took power and freed slaves and developed who she was. And we fell in love with her the whole time. We just kept wanting to root for her every step of the way. We're like, that's awesome. You freed these people. Even though some things had a little bit of a sideways look to them, we didn't care about that. We wanted to write it.
It was slave masters the whole time and stuff like that.
Yeah, we wanted to see her as a good person. And then we see her grow and get a little bit too much power. But then she finds Jon, and oh man, it's going to be a beautiful love affair, and they will rule together because Varys and Mormont and Tyrion are staying together. Oh, imagine how beautiful it would be if the two of them could rule together side by side. And so we kind of think about that. That would be cool because they would balance each other out, and they would have so much power and authority and honor and respect, and be perfect. But we see that turn, that cold kiss between them, that little separation between them, and then sure enough, she's flying over the King's Landing, burning innocent women and children. And it's just that complete change of her character, heartbreak. You see it in her face. Such great acting. So I mean, I love her arc because we fell so in love with her, and then so effectively, not quickly, but effectively, we're turned away from her.
Yeah.
And then you get to the point, like you said last episode, that we're waiting, like, oh shit, who's gonna kill her? She's got to die. Oh my god!
It's amazing how fast that happens.
Right? Like, she was so cool. We trusted her. We respected her. We loved her. Oh god, now she's killing everybody. We put an arrow in her head. She's got to die right now. Yeah. Like, somebody jump up there and stab her in the back, and then we're just.
God, that was so well.
It was so well written. But
that right there, that sentence, it's so hard because people right now, they're angry and they're saying it's the writing's fault. It's the writing's fault. Guys, think about it. You're angry about a freaking TV show.
Right.
That's not the writing's fault. Oh, wait, that is the writing's fault.
Go to work and talk to somebody who doesn't watch Game of Thrones and see what they think about you because you're so emotionally invested in a TV show. Well written.
How does Jake,
Jake from State Farm, right?
Jake from State Farm. How's he feeling about the emotions going on
confused. Here? He's like, what are you talking about?
So the lady on a dragon burn people? Kind of sounds like a given.
Just cry with me, Jake. Just cry with me.
Joshua,
what do you think of Daenerys' story?
It's an inspiring personal story. It's a depressing global story.
Yeah.
Because she's born, her actions cause the death of her brother, and then she like causes destruction in Slaver's Bay, and she destroys cities. And then she brings the Khalasar over, destroys most of them. And so like her personal like empowerment has been the destruction of thousands and thousands of lives.
Yeah.
And so it's like the writing has been so good because it's kind of hidden that from us.
Yeah.
We've been so focused on like, wow, look at her empowerment as a person. Look at how great she's becoming. But that cost has been hidden from us in a way until that last episode where she destroys an entire city, and we're like, oh, that's where she's getting all her empowerment from.
Yeah.
And so then we realize that maybe like having her around is more costly than our love for her, and that's what John figures out.
Yeah. I think that's one thing that we kind of forget as we're watching the show is we watch her increase in power and we're rooting for her the whole time. But like you're saying with her love for Drogon, I think her love for Drogo is the fact that she gets some advice on how to overpower him, Khal Drogo. She gets some advice on how to overpower him, like sexually and stuff like that. Then she does, and she finds joy in that. Like, I'm pinning down Khal Drogo while we have sex, and we see that in her. Like, we're like, yeah, you go, girl. But then you got to think of that through her personality is that she's finding that joy and power, and that's like triggering something in her.
A little bit of lust for power.
She's always been belittled by her brother and by her situation, always being on the run and stuff like that. So then we slowly see her gain power this whole time. She burned all those slavers when she got the Unsullied. She got, throughout time, we've already done this part, but we've already explained how we've seen her evolve, gaining power, and every time we've been rooting for her doing something, it's really been, it's rooting for murder. Yeah. But, so I think it's one of those things where I really have enjoyed her story so far. And at the end, when you feel so emotional about a character, I think the way they wrote her out, where she's just flying off of Drogon, was wonderful. Yeah. I have a couple of people I follow on Twitter that I really, I enjoy them. They're joking around like, Drogon's going to go eat her now. She's meat. I'm like, no, come on, don't do that to me. That doesn't make sense. But I do like that idea that he's taking her off and probably going to go lay her down somewhere in, Volantis or somewhere beautiful, Valyria, yeah, thank you.
I'm imagining there's a couple eggs that have already hatched in Valyria, so he's going to go over there amongst other dragons, lay her somewhere, and together they'll burn her, down. And then,
you're thinking of some like nice dragon ritual.
Imagine they're intellectual creatures, right?
I'd like to think so.
I don't know.
So I think they did a nice job with Daenerys, and I think it was a fitting end. So I'm happy with it. Okay. Well, our last little bit before we finish off the show, guys, let's talk about all these prequels we got burning up. Okay.
Oh, I'm stoked.
They have 5 in the works. 3 of them are actually in production, which is just crazy.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's huge.
Yeah.
3 spin-offs of a single TV series.
Yeah, we have them. We got Jane Goldman. She made Kingsman: The Golden Circle, which I really liked that. I was working on one of them. Max Borenstein, he did Kong Skull Island. Brian Helgeland did Legend. Carly Rae does Mad Men. That one. Whoever did Mad Men, make my next
Money
Game of
maker
Thrones.
right there.
Mad Men's so good. Anyways, has an unsatisfactory ending too. Makes sense. So we know one of them is going to be taking place in Valyria and has to do with some of that Sothros. I'm not saying that name right. Josh, would you know how to say the southern continent's name?
No.
Okay, it's like South Thrones, but there's a Y in there somewhere. It's very low, or Game of Thrones.
The South, gotcha.
Yeah.
South Eros.
So it has something. It's going to be in that region just because we know from casting, because all these different regions have specific, kind of casting.
Brown people.
Well, yeah. If you're talking about South Thrones, they are.
Gotcha.
And then if you're talking about Volantis, it has, or not Volantis, Valyria. Thank you. Has like this very pale skin with the white hair and stuff like that. So
you just think yourself?
I did.
I like it.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so we know that. All the other projects, just real quick, like 2 minutes. What kind of spinoff or prequel would you want to see? Joshua, you go first.
The only thing I can think that would work would be like a Robert's Rebellion.
I think that
because
would work great,
we've fallen in love with these characters, and so we haven't really fallen in love with Westeros. We fell in love with Jon, with Arya, with Daenerys, and so the only way that would work is if we like go back and we can like see Robert's Rebellion. So we see a young Robert Baratheon, we see Ned Stark, we see a young Tywin Lannister, and like very very young like maybe Jaime and Cersei. And so we can kind of see their evolution as characters, and so that is like the only way like you can connect this audience to the audience of the spin-offs. Otherwise, they're going to be completely unconnected, and no one's going to be interested.
I think that would be great. I think we have to wait like another 10 years before we see that. It would be too soon to jump into that one. I would love that. And one thing that's really nice to kind of keep in mind is that's post-Dragons still, so the budget can be nice and low. And one thing I love about Game of Thrones that it kind of like got lost in the last couple seasons is I like the political dynamics, not so much like massive battles and dragon burning things. That's fun to watch. Yeah. But why I fell in love with the show is watching Cersei scheme and Tyrion try to outdo that. That's what felt. So I think with Robert's Rebellion, I think we could see a lot of that.
Yeah.
Jonathan, any ideas?
I mean, I'd love to see a series just based on Jon and Torment up north, their future together. Right, that'd be so cool. Buddy cop drama of them trying to tame the wild, That'd be so cool. But seeing, like, Arya, her future sailing, but also not just her future, but hers, like we'd mentioned before, it'd be cool to see a couple months or something like that of her and the Hound traveling, just going from Winterfell to Casterly
traveling together.
Right?
I got your song for you.
But also, I would love to see something more about the Faceless Men, about how they were developed. Like you could see a story of,
that story is freaking great.
So not necessarily them now, where they're they have temples and all that stuff, but just day one of some guy who decides I'm gonna follow this god, this one god of the many. And
do you know?
No, I don't know nothing. I know zero.
Oh,
tell me the story.
Right. It's in the books and it's phenomenal.
The story
I'll go over it real fast.
How it was made?
Oh yeah, so they're in these like caves. They were mining for the Valyrians, right? And they're all slaves down there working in these caves, and they're praying to their gods for death.
Yeah.
And finally, they start. And one of these groups starts to slowly build. That's going around answering these prayers and killing the slaves that just want to escape this prison that they're in, basically. And that's how they became. So that's why they're the many-faced gods. It's all the gods of death from the many religions of everybody praying for death in there, because there's slaves captured from everywhere. Oh man, it's a beautiful, beautiful story. But yeah,
basically, a serial killer got a great idea to franchise.
Yeah. He's like, I could open up a couple of these.
Right.
The one I want to see, and it's one that George R. R. Martin already said it's not going to happen because he wants to make more books from it, which is a good sign for the future, guys.
Nice.
So we probably won't see one now. We'll see it someday. It's Dunk and Egg, which is 100 years before this. It's I want to say it's Aegon I can't remember. But anyways, and Duncan the Tall, which is an ancestor of Brienne of Tarth. Yeah. So think of Brienne protecting a young boy Targaryen. It's really Knight's Tale. Knight's Tale got their idea from this. And think of Knight's Tale, but like carried out, where you have this one knight pretending to be a knight, and they catch him and like, oh, you're not really a knight. And they decide like, oh, well, you know what? This kid he's protecting, that's his ward that nobody knows about, and who's bald, is actually Aegon Targaryen, the son that ran away, and he's bald because he's been shaving his white hair so nobody knows he's a Targaryen. And that kid makes him a knight. And then so now he is actually a knight, and then he goes south to try to find his girlfriend who's a puppet master at this big tournament. It's so amazing. It's a wonderful, good, classic medieval story.
Oh, nice.
It's begging to be made. But George R. R. Martin's like, no, hold on, I got to flush more out of that before we do anything. So that's a good sign. I like to see that.
I'm excited.
I think that's it for us, guys.
So did you say we know 3 that are already being made, though?
3 are in production. We only know we only know by the casting of one of them where it's located.
Okay.
We have we have Watchers on the Walls, a dedicated group that's trying to find out as much information as we can.
It's going to be 5 years before we see anything.
Yeah. So
I'm gonna be so old.
I know. Mom and Dad, I watched it the first time I watched it. I went and watched it over at their house.
Yeah.
And it was funny because Mom was like joking around, like, "Oh yeah, they were saying on the news that there's like support groups and stuff like that, counselors you can see about, because now there's no more Game of Thrones and stuff like that." And I'm like, "That's funny. Did you catch the number? I'm just wondering. I want to call and make fun of them." Oh my god.
Is there one nearby?
I was starting one. That's so funny. So yeah, it's been great, guys. Let us know what you guys thought of these episodes. We could always use the reviews on iTunes, and all the other ones are Spotify, and Spotify's actually growing quite big. It's nice.
We love Game of Thrones, but if there's a different series that you guys recommend, we could totally be reviewing.
Kind of thinking maybe Westworld. It's something that would really take a lot. Westworld's one of those shows that takes so much analyzing. I would love to pour some hours into that.
It's deep.
So if there is a show out there that you guys think you'd like to hear from us, let us know. There's a new Lord of the Rings coming up, and of course there's a spinoff of this, stuff like that. Yeah. There is a I think it's Wheel of Time, I want to say, that they're working on. I have the book for it. I just gotta read it. It's coming. And we have Watchmen coming up. So
nice.
Thank you very much, Joshua, for joining us. You kicked butt, man. You did a great job. And then Jonathan, of course, as always. Oh, yeah. If you guys, by the way, our newest shirt, I'll mention it during our main episode too. We have the newest shirt. It's the Jonathan shirt.
God,
check it out.
He's got a big nose. Watch out.
I'll have to mention the artist's name. I forgot it right now. I'm sorry about that. But I'll mention it during our main show when we do a big plug for it.
Nice.
But that's about it, guys. Thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you all on Monday.
Bye.
Bye.